Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you all are doing well today, and welcome to Amtrak Vacations presentation today on Life on Board Amtrak. How exciting is that? My name is Nick Bennell, and I have proudly been here with Amtrak Vacations now for 4.5 years, and I am beyond excited to be here with you all today. We're going to have some really great things to go over and some really interesting information. I actually have a special guest that knows the train like the back of her hand. She's been on, I think, quite a bit of the long distance Amtrak train, so she'll be able to share some of this exciting information with you all. And definitely stay tuned towards the end of the presentation as we have some exclusive discounts for you all, as well as one lucky person will win a $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card. So definitely something well worth looking forward to. So let's hop right into it. Why Amtrak Vacations, may you ask? Well, as you can see, there is several reasons. First and foremost, it is a bucket list experience. Last year, we surveyed all of our travelers from all around the world as to why they chose Amtrak and Amtrak Vacations, and the number one consensus answer that we kept seeing was that it was a bucket list trip. Definitely worthwhile to have on your list. Room to roam. Take what you know about being on an airplane where you can maybe only move about 20 feet, and usually you have to sit in your seat and have your seatbelt fastened, and then there's that dinging sound. Throw it all out the window. Because with Amtrak, you can freely move amongst the train whenever you want. You can go visit the cafe car, visit the dining car, or visit my personal favorite, the observation car, which will be touched on a little bit later. There's less hassle. By going through Amtrak Vacations, there's no need for you to spend hours, even days, piecemealing your dream rail vacation together. We can get it done for you and get it all together for you in a matter of minutes. Please let us handle everything from your hotel, your rail, your meals, your transfers, your sightseeing, all in a one-stop shop. It's really easy. There's city-to-city service. Now, I love this because there's no need for long airport transfers. I can tell you, I traveled about 2 weeks ago, and I flew into a city, and then I had to sit in a cab for about an hour just to get into the middle of the city. There's no need for that with Amtrak. We get you downtown to downtown, so we get you right where you want to be as quickly as possible. Satisfy your hunger. Now, this I'll touch base on a little bit later, or I believe our special guest will actually touch base on a little bit later, where I just want to remind all of you, though, whenever you upgrade to the sleeping accommodations on Amtrak, not only are you getting a private room with beds, not only are you getting shower access, but your meals on board the train are included, and you won't want to miss out on that. And lastly, flexibility. All of our packages can be customized and tailor-made to your liking. Say you see something today that you really like, or you have this ideal dream rail holiday in your head and you want to see it come to life, we can make that happen. Keep that in mind. All of our trips to have the ability to be customized to your liking. We're here to help provide your dream rail vacation. And I really love showing off this map because it really amazes me at how extensive Amtrak's system really is. Did you know that Amtrak services 46 out of the 48 contingent states here in the U.S., with the exceptions of Wyoming and South Dakota? And another fun fact about Amtrak is last year, Amtrak set their ridership record with over 32.5 million riders throughout the United States. And this year, it's anticipated to be even higher. And one of the best elements about all of this is you can actually choose between any of the 500 Amtrak stations to start or end your journey. Or, if you wanted to, you can actually fly to your start destination or fly home from your end destination. It is completely up to you. Now, one really wonderful thing that I love about Amtrak is there's no pesky middle seat. I can tell you when I flew about 2 weeks ago, I got the middle seat, and it really starts your vacation off on a sour note. You're in between two people, you're sandwiched, you can't get comfortable. It just is not fun. It's not enjoyable. With Amtrak, we work in rows of two, so you can truly be comfortable. You can kick back and relax, be able to not be sandwiched. It's actually a wonderful experience. Another wonderful element about Amtrak is there's no long TSA lines at the stations. There's no need to spend your days, sometimes 2, 3 hours, long amount of time waiting in a line just to take your shoes and your belt off. With Amtrak, we can get you right onto the train as quickly as possible so you can start your journey as quickly as possible. And lastly, there's no need spending your days sitting in traffic. Have you ever been so excited to go on vacation? You know, you get out of work, you get in the car, you're excited for a road trip, you roll down the windows, the music goes up, and all of a sudden, boom, you hit traffic. Hours and hours of what seems like endless traffic. And once again, your trip's off on a sour note, and it's just a disappointment. Well, with Amtrak, no one's getting in the way of our routes, so we can get you to your destination as quickly as possible. Kick back, relax, and let us do the driving for you. And we offer a wide array of different types of products. First, our independent rail journeys, these are some of the most popular packages that we offer. These are our multi-city, multi-state, week-long, 10-day long, 2-week long, even 16-day long journeys that cover a lot of ground. These are definitely the types of trips, if you were looking for a long, conclusive rail trip, this is the one you're looking for. There's our family adventures. These I highly suggest if you're doing a multi-generational trip or a large family trip, as there's something for everyone, from grandparents to children to grandchildren. These are family-friendly trips that are perfect for fun for the whole family. There's our rail and sail packages. Now I love these because they combine two completely different styles of travel. First off, you will get a Amtrak journey on the train, and then you'll get actually an Alaskan cruise out of Seattle. So you get two different types of trips rolled into one amazing package. There's our rail getaways. Now these are the perfect 2 to 3 night single city break trips. With Memorial Day just coming up this coming weekend, with the summer right around the corner, highly suggest these. If you're looking to just get away for a couple days, these are the trips for you. And our national parks. These are some of our most popular trips that we offer. Places like Glacier Park, Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Yosemite. We work so closely with these parks that we actually hold our own space at some of those hard-to-get park lodges. So keep that in mind. Space that you all might go online and try to get, and it shows up unavailable or sold out, we have the space. So keep that in mind, folks. And to book any of these amazing different types of vacation packages, all you have to do is give us a ring at 1-800-268-7252, and one of our amazing reservationists is waiting on standby for you. You can visit our website at amtrakvacations.com, or my personal favorite, what I always suggest, call or pay a visit to your local travel agent. They'll be delighted to see you or hear from you, and they'll be able to share their expertise and answer any questions that you may have. Tell you, I go through my local travel agent for my own personal travel, and I wouldn't have it any other way. They're the best. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce a very good friend of mine. She, like I said, has been on quite a bit of Amtrak, so she's got the ins and the outs of how the train works and the scoop of what's going on board the train. I'm going to be introducing my good friend, Colleen McCarthy. Colleen, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks so much to everybody listening as well. Big thank you for joining us today, spending your time, taking part of your afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where you're located, to hear our great presentation today about life on board Amtrak. Subject near and dear to my heart. As Nick said, I've been very lucky. I've been able to take quite a few of Amtrak's routes. So I'm really happy to share some of those insider tips and information for you. Whether this is your first Amtrak trip that you're planning now, or whether you're a return customer, we're really excited to have you on board with us here at Amtrak Vacations. So first we're going to start talking about the subject that I think is probably our most asked questions from our guests here, and that's about the onboard accommodations with Amtrak. Everybody wants to know, what is it like to travel on the train? What type of seating do you have? What type of rooms do you have? You know, depending on what kind of trip you're looking for, we've got accommodations there on board to suit your needs. So we're going to start out here, folks, talking about the coach accommodations on the train. And it's funny, I actually hate the word coach. I think it reminds people of the airlines, like Nick said, where you've got awful middle seats and cramped legroom and typically, as we all know, a bit uncomfortable journey. Not so with Amtrak. Amtrak has some really great, roomy, comfortable coach accommodations. As you can see in the photo here, and as Nick mentioned, it is 2 seats, and then an aisle, and then 2 more seats. So really very comfortable there for you. As you can see, there's quite a bit of legroom. I often joke I'm fairly short, guys, but I cannot actually kick the seat in front of me when I'm sitting in coach on Amtrak's long-distance trains. That's how much room you have there. In addition, they're really nice, comfy, padded seats, and you do have a tray table, you know, if you're going to have a snack there at your seat, room for your magazine, your laptop there. As well, you have a nice footrest which comes up, and the seats do recline back about 45 degrees, which doesn't, you know, lay all the way flat, but it is quite a bit more room than you'd have on your average airline recliner seat. So very comfortable accommodations there in coach. Also, I really want to point out for you folks those great big windows that you can see next to the passengers there on the slide. Amtrak, one of the absolute highlights of traveling cross-country on Amtrak is being able to see some gorgeous scenery, parts of our country that you folks are not going to be able to see driving on a 6-lane interstate highway or flying through the clouds, you know, thousands of miles above the surface there. So that's one of the things that I think is really a huge feature for our passengers on Amtrak, is being able to see that scenery. And Amtrak wants you to have a great view no matter where you're sitting. So you've got those beautiful, gorgeous big windows there for you to see some of the coastline or some of the mountains, depending on which route you're traveling on there. In addition, the coach seating does have some great storage space for your luggage. As you can see, there's overhead storage for the luggage there, and not pictured here, but there's a luggage rack at the front of every car for you as well if you had a little bit larger suitcases. Baggage is another question we get all the time. You know, what can you take for baggage on Amtrak? And they do have a very generous baggage policy, really. Depending on the stations that you're traveling from and to, a lot of the times you guys can check your bags with Amtrak, and similar to an airline, you check your bag in Chicago, you don't see it again until you arrive in Seattle a few days later. So Amtrak does also allow you to bring 2 carry-on bags on board the train with you, as well as a personal item like a laptop or backpack or purse. So again, that's 2 checked bags where available, 2 carry-on bags, and a personal item as well. So you do have quite a generous baggage policy there with Amtrak. Certainly, if you folks are interested in one of our longer trips, we do always recommend that you look into our sleeping accommodations there on board Amtrak. So I'm going to talk about the 2 most popular room types today, which is the roomette and the bedroom. Amtrak's roomette is where we're going to start here. That's the smaller of the 2 cabins, but still very comfortable. As you can see here, it's designed to fit 2 people. During the day, you've got 2 chairs which face each other. Again, that big, beautiful picture window. You've got the fold-out table, so you can play some cards or set up your laptop. The roomette also has air controls, so you can turn the fan on and off there. You've got your own lighting controls, and you do have outlets as well. I should mention as well that with coach seating, most of the seats there in coach do have outlets for you to charge your phone, your laptop, your tablet. Same is true in the roomette there. You've got your own outlets inside your own private cabin. And again, guys, these are private cabins, so you've got your own door with curtains. You can shut it and be totally closed off and comfortable, or you could leave the door open, wave to people as they go by there in your roomette. Now, during the day, as I showed you here, they are seating. There's a picture there with the door open for you. And then in the evening, they do fold down into bunk beds. So these are designed for 2 people, and it is bunk-style beds. So 1 bottom bunk and then 1 top bunk that folds out from the wall. Question we had on the last presentation there is, do you have to fold down your own beds? And the answer is no, you don't. One of the great things about upgrading to the sleeping accommodations on board the train is that with those sleeping accommodations, you have a car attendant, and he or she is your go-to guy or gal. They're going to help you out for anything you need on board the train while you're there in your roomette or bedroom accommodations. So they'll turn down the beds for you when you like, and then they'll turn them back up into seats the next day for you to sit and have some coffee in the room there. They can also tell you about the area that you're traveling through. They're great and knowledgeable guides there, as well as help you make your dinner reservations, which we'll get to in a little bit, and anything else you might need. Your room attendant is fantastic. If you are going to the Grand Canyon from Los Angeles, they will even wake you up quite early in the morning to make sure you don't miss your stop, which I can personally attest to. And we've got just a quick shot here of the top bunk there of the roomette. So once it folds down into bunks. We also, of course, can book the cabin for just a solo traveler. If you are traveling by yourself, that's no problem. You can book the roomette and it will be your own private accommodation. Nobody else is going to come in and share with you. With the Roomette accommodations on board Amtrak, your facilities are just down the hall, so very comfortable. There's restrooms and showers just down the hall for you. And we like to use the term private but shared, meaning that those restrooms, once you get in there, lock the door, it's all yours, and you're only really sharing with the other folks who have the Roomette facilities in your exact car. And the car attendant's going to make sure that everything's nice and tidy for you there as well. So it's really great. The roomette is actually usually what I take when I travel on board Amtrak. But if you are looking for something a little bit larger, you want a little more space to move around inside your room, and or you want your own private facilities, you may want to look into Amtrak's bedroom accommodations, which is a little bit larger room there on board the train. During the day, the bedroom has basically a love seat style. You can sit side by side on the little couch. And they also have a freestanding chair there, so you can sit across from each other if you like and want to look out the window or play cards, something like that with a couple here. You can see in the little right-hand corner the diagram of the room. You do have your own private facilities with Amtrak's bedroom accommodations. So you have your own little toilet shower stall as well as your own sink right there in the room for you. So it's a great feature if that's something that's important to you. Great feature of the bedroom accommodations on board Amtrak. And again, in the evening, they do fold down into bunk-style bedding for you. So you've got a little bit larger bunk on the bottom and then an upper bunk that comes out from the wall. I have had people tell me that they sleep pretty comfortably in the bottom bunk together, a little cozy, but people certainly can do it. The other thing that people do choose to do a lot of the time is if you did want to guarantee 2 bottom beds, there is no room on board Amtrak that has 2 bottom beds inside the room. What you can do though is take 2 roomettes. If you book early, we can try and arrange for you to have them right across the hall from each other. It's a great choice for people because then you can sit in either one of the roomettes and see the very best scenery as you're going by, whether it's on the right hand or left hand side of the train. And then in the evening, each person has their own bottom bed. The other thing we can do is, depending on which train you're on, there's also family bedrooms, which can sleep up to 4 people, 2 adults and 2 kids, as well as what they call the bedroom suite. So this bedroom that you see here, on certain trains, we have the ability to book 2 right next to each other and take the wall out in between them to create a suite, which again can sleep up to 4 people. And of course, that one would have 2 bottom beds and 2 top beds. So it is a question we do get sometimes. And certainly, if you do have any restrictions, just let us know. Amtrak does also have a handicapped accessible room on board every train for those of you guys who might have mobility impairments and need that accessible facilities. Once you leave your sleeping accommodations, you've spent some time in your room. Now you want to get up and roam the train. As Nick said, you can get up and wander around, which is one of the great things about it. You're spending some time on the train there. You want to stretch your legs. I definitely recommend you head over to Nick's favorite, the observation car. As you can see here, we've got some beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows there on the observation car. As the name suggests, it is designed for you guys to be able to see some of that spectacular scenery as you travel cross-country. Big comfy seats, they face the windows, so you're really facing out to see the Rocky Mountains if you're traveling on the California Zephyr, or maybe to see some of the beautiful coastline of California if you're on the Pacific Surfliner. Every train route has its own unique features, and the observation car is going to let you soak in those sights there. They do have outlets again if you did want to charge some electronic devices while you're in the observation car. One of the things that I should mention about the observation car is that it's first come, first serve, and it is open to everybody on the train. So whether you're in coach or a roomette or a bedroom, anybody can get a seat here in the observation car. And it does often come up, question from people, well, Colleen, is there really going to be seating available in the observation car? What if it's all full? It's a great question, and it's really often not a problem. Nick can tell you, and I can as well from having traveled on these long distance routes on multiple occasions. I've really never had trouble finding a seat in the observation car. And the reason why is that people are getting up and they're moving around all the time. We'll get to dining in just a minute, but Amtrak is serving meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner whenever you're on the train at a mealtime. And people make reservations for different times for seating. So people are always getting up and going off to a meal, or they're going to spend some time, take a nap maybe in their room, or they're going to go down to the cafe and grab a drink at the cafe. So it's really not an issue to find a seat in the observation car. And if you do go across and it is full, just come back in a half an hour and you'll probably be able to find a seat there. We're seeing pictures here, by the way, folks, from Amtrak Superliner equipment. Amtrak does have two different types of equipment that they run throughout the country. Most of our long-distance routes running west of the Mississippi, going cross-country, out to the west coast, are on the Superliner trains. Those are the double-decker trains, as you can see here. So it's actually 2 levels on the train. You get a great bird's eye view from the upper level on the observation car. Now, if you wanted to take a stroll downstairs, you can go down to the lounge car, or the cafe car as it's often called, on board Amtrak. On the bottom of that observation car, there is a great cafe, and you can grab a snack in between meal times. You can also grab a drink in the evening if you want to grab a glass of wine and watch the sunset. It's a la carte service there from the cafe car. You can get a muffin in the morning, sandwich in the afternoon, that sort of thing there. So the cafe is a great place to visit as well. They've got some nice table seating, again, if you want to sit all together, if you're traveling in a little bit larger group there. The cafe car is a great choice for you. Now, as Nick mentioned at the beginning, if you do take the sleeper accommodations, then your meals are included for you on the train, which is a really excellent perk of taking those sleeper accommodations. All of your meals when you're in the dining car during meal times are included for you. And if you're in coach, you can also visit the dining car. So that's a common misconception, I think, from folks that if you're in coach seats, you can't visit the dining car. Not true at all. You can absolutely make a reservation, go down to the dining car, get a great dinner, and it's just pay, out of pocket there. Now, I should mention when we do include the meals with Amtrak, with the sleeper cars, if you folks did want to have a nice glass of wine or beer with your dinner, that part is not included, just so you know. You just pay out of pocket for that portion, for the alcohol there on board the train. As I mentioned, Amtrak does serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the dining car when you are traveling during those meal times. It's really excellent. You can get an omelet for breakfast, you can get a cheeseburger for lunch, you can get a beautiful salad, or my personal favorite, the steak on board Amtrak during dinner. I just think it's so neat to have a steak prepared by a chef on board a moving train as you go straight clear across country. It's a really unique experience. The dining car over and over again is one of the things that our passengers report as being one of their favorite features of Amtrak. Definitely highly recommend it. As I have mentioned a few times, you actually can make reservations for your meal on board Amtrak. So for breakfast is first come, first serve there. But for lunch and for dinner, they will take reservations for your meal time. So if you are in a sleeper accommodation, somebody's going to come right around to your room and they're going to ask you what time you'd like to have dinner, and they've got different seatings. Let's say there's a 6 o'clock seating, a 7 o'clock seating, 7:30 seating, something like that. When it's your turn to go down to the dining car, they're actually going to make an announcement over the loudspeaker and announce that everybody who's got the 6:30 p.m. seating to come on down to the dining car. One thing I definitely recommend you guys do before you travel is take a look at what time sunset's going to be that day and see about arranging your dinner to coincide with that sunset, because that was one of my favorite things when I was on the Coast Starlight last year. I was very lucky to have dinner in the dining car while the sun was setting over the coast of California. It was really amazing experience, really, really spectacular. One of the other really neat things about the dining car there on Amtrak is if you're traveling as a solo passenger or as a couple, you very well might get seated with another person or another 2 people. Tables do accommodate up to 4 people, and it's a great way to get to know some of your fellow passengers for the evening. A few months ago, I was actually going from Los Angeles to the Grand Canyon, and I met a wonderful woman who was traveling from LA all the way back to Chicago in one swoop. She had been in California visiting her grandkids and was headed home to Illinois. So it was really neat just to get to talk to her and the people at the tables around us. It's a really fun atmosphere there in the dining car on board Amtrak. So certainly highly recommend that that experience if you can make it. Now, what we're going to do a little bit now is look at some of the great vacations that we have here with Amtrak Vacations and talk a little bit about some of the different routes that you might travel on board Amtrak and what it might be like traveling across those routes on our vacations here. So we're going to look at one of the absolute best sellers, most popular packages that we offer, which is the Northern Rail Experience. Northern Rail Experience here is designed for you train buffs, you guys who tuned in today, to get all the information you could possibly soak up about traveling on board the train. This might be the trip for you. So we really designed this one around spending as much time as possible on the train and seeing as much of the country as you can via Amtrak. So it's really pretty spectacular. You start out there in Chicago and take Amtrak's Empire Builder train out to Seattle. Then you spend one night in Seattle, get to experience that really neat city, and take an overnight ride from Seattle down to San Francisco on Amtrak's Coast Starlight. Beautiful train there. Spend, 2 nights in San Francisco, which is one of my favorite places in the U.S. Really amazing place to visit. Spend 2 nights there and take the California Zephyr train, 2 overnights back to Chicago. It is a matter of much heated debate here among my colleagues at Amtrak Vacations, which one is the best train route in the States. I think the California Zephyr ranks up there pretty high for most people. It's some really stunning scenery there going across the middle of the country on the California Zephyr route back to Chicago. So as I mentioned, we start you off on the Empire Builder train out to Seattle. And when you arrive in Seattle, we arrange your hotel accommodations for you. And we also arrange a hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour with this particular trip. Hop-on, hop-off, for those of you folks who are not familiar, it's a really great way to get around and see the city. You get a pass on the trolley or the bus and get off at whatever site interests you. So let's say you're in Seattle, you want to get off at the Space Needle. Spend your time, go up and see the Space Needle, get back on the very next bus that comes by and go out to Pike's Place Market to get some food there. So it's really a very great way to get around and see the city and still be flexible. One of the great things about these vacation packages that we've got here for you is that they're really very flexible. We'll set it up for you, make it very easy. We'll set up the train, the hotel, the tours, things like that, but it's really customizable. As Nick said, you can tailor it to see what you want to see in the city, do what you want to do in each location. Following Seattle, you take Amtrak's Coast Starlight train down to San Francisco. This is another overnight ride there, and I should definitely point out that if you did upgrade to the sleeping accommodations, the roomettes or the bedrooms on board the Coast Starlight, on most departure dates they do have the Pacific Parlor car on board that train, which is exclusive for those first class passengers with roomettes and bedrooms, and also the business class on the Coast Starlight. The Pacific Parlor car is another unique lounge car there on Amtrak, so you would have your own sort of private lounge car for you and your fellow sleeper class passengers, which is pretty neat. They do a wine tasting at one point during that trip, which is quite nice. The Coast Starlight, really, in this instance, you're going to see some really beautiful scenery there in the Pacific Northwest and in Northern California. You cross quite a few rivers. You can see some mountains, the Olympic Mountains, Mount Hood, some of the Cascades as well. It's a really beautiful ride down to San Francisco, which again, guys, is one of my favorite places in the U.S. to visit. There's so much culture, so much to see and do in San Francisco. Some great food there as well. There's the Ghirardelli factory. You can go on down to Pier 39 and get some fresh seafood. It's really pretty spectacular as well. While you're in San Francisco on this particular trip, you do 2 nights there. And you have that hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour so that you can really get around and see the city, as well as a tour out to Muir Woods and Sausalito, and a bay cruise so you can get out on the water. You can't visit the coast and not get out on the water, so that's included for you on this particular trip as well before you board Amtrak's California Zephyr and head back to Chicago. One of the reasons this trip is so stunning is because you actually go through 2 mountain ranges. You go through the Sierra Nevadas, and then you go through the Rocky Mountains through Colorado, which is just absolutely breathtaking scenery. They're going through those Rocky Mountains. This trip travels through Utah, Colorado, and then on up, to Chicago there. It's 2 overnights on board the California Zephyr, where I guarantee you're going to be glued to the windows in the observation car, seeing all the different sights there. And again, this trip, so it's a 9-day trip, 5 nights on board Amtrak, so that's really the highlight of this trip for you train buffs there, and 3 nights hotel in Seattle and San Francisco. And I just want to point out again real quick that all of these trips are totally customizable. So as we talked about, they're flexible. You can tailor them to meet your needs. For example, if you felt like 2 nights on the California Zephyr on the way home was a little long and you wanted to break up the trip, we can arrange it so that you get off the train in Denver. Maybe you want to do a tour of Rocky Mountain National Park and really get up and close and personal with some of the Rocky Mountains and the scenery there. So that's certainly something that we could do for you, or anything like that on any of the different trips that you see here. For example, and speaking of national parks, our next trip that we're going to look at is the Glacier National Park Express. That travels on Amtrak's famous Empire Builder route from Chicago, 1 overnight to Glacier National Park, where you spend 3 nights really getting off and seeing some of the beautiful, gorgeous scenery of the national park. Another overnight to Seattle, where you spend 2 more nights there. This trip starts out here in Chicago, and you'll see Chicago as kind of a recurring theme on our trips here. It's actually Amtrak's major hub, so a lot of their routes start and end in Chicago, which is why you'll see a lot of our trips start or end or both in Chicago. Chicago's a really great city. For those of you who haven't been, I highly recommend it. Here we have an architecture cruise included in this trip, so you can get out and see some of the real beautiful buildings and architecture that's made Chicago famous. So you spend 2 days there in Chicago before you board Amtrak's Empire Builder train. And this is a really stunning journey, guys. It's right up there with the California Zephyr for one of the most scenic routes that Amtrak does offer. Beautiful pine and fir forests that you go through, as well as the northern Rocky Mountains on your way out to Glacier National Park, which in itself is an amazing destination. Cannot recommend it too highly. And as we were talking about city-to-city service, you know, from Chicago's Union Station right downtown Chicago, it actually brings you to the doorstep of the national park. So in this case, it's city-to-park service as well. One of our colleagues has actually been on the Empire Builder, gone out to Glacier National Park and counted for us. So there are 209 steps from the Amtrak station to the front door of Glacier National Park Lodge, which is where we typically have you guys stay when you visit Glacier Park. So it literally drops you off at the doorstep to the national park, and we have a couple fantastic tours here in Glacier National Park for you. The Big Sky Circle Tour is going to take you out into the winding roads of the mountains, and the Two Medicine Valley Boat Cruise is going to take you out in one of these beautiful glacial carved valleys, which is now got a pristine lake in it. So you can see kind of in the photo there some of the scenery that you'll see when you visit Glacier National Park. Absolute highlight, our best-selling destination here at Amtrak Vacations. Can't say enough about it. Definitely a beautiful trip if you guys are looking for something to do this summer or even next summer. Glacier National Park there. And then you board Amtrak for your overnight ride to Seattle, which again has got some really stunning scenery. You actually go through some of the Cascade Mountain Range on your way into Seattle, which is really beautiful and stunning scenery as well, before spending 2 nights there in Seattle, where we include that hop-on, hop-off city tour for you, as well as admission to the Space Needle in this case. Get up and see some of the bay and some of the beautiful surrounding scenery there surrounding Seattle. Now this trip here does end in Seattle, so starts in Chicago and ends in Seattle. And what a lot of folks will do is they'll have us arrange the train to get back home at the end. So we can certainly tack on, if you guys need it, a train to get back to your starting point, or a lot of folks choose to fly back home at the end. So it's all up to you. We can tailor make the trip to include your needs. And as I mentioned before, when you are traveling overnight on board Amtrak, or anytime you're in a long distance train, if you do take the roomette or the bedroom, your meals are included for you, which is a great feature there of traveling on board the train. Going back to our hub in Chicago, we're going to now look at the Jazz, Blues, and Rock and Roll trip. This is another one of my favorites. I got to do this one about 2 years ago, which is really spectacular. This train is perfect. This trip is perfect for you guys. Maybe for somebody who wants to kind of get their feet wet with Amtrak. It's got one overnight ride on the train between Chicago and Memphis, Tennessee, and then it's got a day trip from Memphis to New Orleans. So it's a great way to get on board, experience that overnight train, and then get to see some gorgeous scenery during the day on your trip from Memphis to New Orleans. And can't say enough about these three destinations, Chicago, Memphis, and New Orleans. Spectacular for any music fans. You've got some, that's why it's called Jazz, Blues, and Rock and Roll, of course, some great live music opportunities for you, as well as anybody who is a foodie or a food buff, some amazing food, both in Memphis and in New Orleans, and Chicago, of course, as well. So trip does start out there in Chicago, where you have the hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour. And anything else you guys want to do, we can certainly set up for you, so we can get you admissions to some of the world-class museums they have there in Chicago. You could take that hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour up to Navy Pier. You can take it to Magnificent Mile and do a little bit of shopping if you like. Before you get on board Amtrak's City of New Orleans train for your ride down to Memphis. Quite famous train here, the City of New Orleans, for any Arlo Guthrie fans out there. You may have heard the song before. Fun fact about this train, actually, is that it does depart Chicago in the evening, just about 8 o'clock, but you can actually board it a little bit early if you like, in order to be able to take advantage of having dinner in the dining car. So that City of New Orleans train does travel overnight on down to Memphis, and you do arrive to Memphis, Tennessee in the morning. And of course we do include there in Memphis for you your hotel stay, as well as a fabulous tour out to Graceland for any Elvis Presley fans. That does come along with this particular trip. And Memphis is just such a fantastic city, so much going on, so much to see and do, especially Beale Street, which you see pictured there, live music at every venue. So it's a great evening for you guys to, stroll down the street, take in all the different bands and different musicians playing there in Memphis, where you spend 2 nights before boarding the City of New Orleans train and heading on down to New Orleans, Louisiana. Great opportunity for you to grab a meal on board this train. They do serve lunch on board, very wonderful meal there before you arrive in New Orleans, and some really beautiful scenery as you go over the bridge there coming into the city itself. In New Orleans, we do include a battlefield cruise for you, so you can get out on the famous Mississippi River, and we also include a city tour to see some of the beautiful French Quarter and some of the real different sights and sounds of New Orleans. So that's the Jazz, Blues, and Rock and Roll trip there, which again, it's about a 9-day trip, Chicago, Memphis, New Orleans on the City of New Orleans train, which is really a great experience there. And as I mentioned, this does go city center to city center, and this particular trip is a great example of it because you go from Chicago's Union Station right downtown to the station in Memphis, which again is right downtown, and same thing, station in New Orleans, it's just about a mile from the French Quarter. So it's really great locations there on board the train. You come right into the city itself, and we really try and arrange all of our stays, hotels and everything like that, to make sure that we're very centrally located as well for you. Now I have time for just one more trip before I turn it back over to Nick and get to what you've all really been waiting for, which is the announcement of our winner for today's webinar. The last trip here is the New York City Big Apple Deluxe round trip from Chicago. I had to talk about at least one of the East Coast trains. So one of the trains here that runs on the East Coast is Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited. As you can see, goes there from Chicago to New York City, which is 1 overnight there, 3 nights in New York, and then 1 overnight on back to Chicago. The Lakeshore Limited is a beautiful route, guys. It goes past Lake Michigan and Lake Erie, the Erie Canal, and then into the Finger Lakes and the Berkshires. It's really some beautiful scenery on board that ride. And that is on Amtrak's Viewliner equipment, which is actually their single-level train. So this one's not a double-decker, but just as comfortable, just as nice as our Superliner trains. And really, those single-level trains are to accommodate some of our tunnels on the East Coast, which are a little bit shorter as we built them a little while ago. That train's going to bring you right into Penn Station in New York City, so you're right in the heart of town again. And we do include quite a bit on this one for you. If you haven't been to New York before, I can't recommend it highly enough. It is, in fact, the city that never sleeps. We include here for you the hop-on, hop-off sightseeing tour, tickets to a Broadway show of your choice, and dinner at a popular restaurant before we have you travel on back to Chicago. Alrighty, so I think that's about all I've got time for today, guys. But we do have lots and lots of questions coming in, so we'll do our very best to answer those at the end. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Nick to announce our winner.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Colleen. Wasn't she great? She is tons of information. I think she's been on the majority of the long distance trains on Amtrak, so it's you're hearing it from an expert over here. So it's really wonderful. So some of these packages Colleen went over are wonderful, but what about we just barely scratched the surface of what we really have to offer. If you want to see all of the packages that we have as well as all of the destinations, because we have tons of destinations, we have over 400 different packages, you definitely want to pay a visit to amtrakvacations.com. Once you're there, if you see that red arrow, it points to the Destinations tab. If you hover over that, it drops down, and from there you can search by packages, destinations. You can truly see everything that we have to offer. And just keep in mind, all of the packages that you see, for the most part, can be customized, so keep that in mind. And say you then find the dream vacation that you want by rail, and how do I go about booking so? Well, you have three options. Give us a call at 1-800-268-7252, and one of our amazing reservationists will be more than happy to assist you. You can pay us a visit at www.amtrakvacations.com, or my personal favorite, what I always suggest and recommend to anyone, pay a visit or call your local travel agent. They will love to help you out, and they're there for you. Usually a lot of the travel agents I know all have, decades of experience, and they are there and will jump at the opportunity to assist anyone and provide the best rail vacation possible. And if we offer tons of different discounts as well. If you are a AAA member, you will save yourself 10% off the rail portion of an Amtrak vacation package when you show your AAA card. If you're traveling with children ages 2 to 12, you'll receive 50% off on the rail portion of an Amtrak vacations package. Our senior travelers age 62 and over will receive 15% off the rail portion of an Amtrak vacations package. And our active duty military personnel, spouses, and dependents receive 10% off discount on the rail portion of a package, just as a thank you for your service. And in the meantime, too, here's one of the things we've been looking forward to the whole time, is our exclusive attendee discount for you all today. If you do want to take a package and you upgrade to a sleep-in accommodation, you will save yourself $100 per couple or $50 per person. To take full advantage of this, you just have to book by June 7th, and you won't want to miss out on this. I can tell you that this promotion is really great. It's a really, really good deal if you think about it, because not only are you getting a private room with beds, not only are you getting shower access, you're getting your meals included, and you're saving money off of it. It's a win-win for you. So keep that in mind. And also, don't forget to download the handout over here that you see on your screen. That will have some of that information about the packages we went over today and some additional information as well. And now's the time, if you have any questions, please feel free to input it into the questions box, and both Colleen and myself will be more than happy to provide an answer for you. And in the meantime, before we jump into questions, I just wanted to take the time to thank all of you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. It's been fantastic, and I hope you all got to learn a little bit about the Amtrak train and about our packages and what we have to offer with Amtrak Vacations. It's really wonderful stuff. And now is the time we've all been waiting for, to announce the special winner of our $100 Amtrak Vacations gift card. Today's today's gift card winner is going to be, let's see, drum roll please, Linda Spyrus. Linda, congratulations. Hope to see you soon on Amtrak and in Amtrak Vacations. And in the meantime, me and Colleen are going to go back and forth and answer some of these questions. So I'm going to start first. So I have here, let's see. They're coming in fast and furious, guys. Some wonderful questions I see. Let's see. I have a question here from James asking, which routes have observation cars? All the long-distance routes have observation cars. So any of the long-distance ones that include, a night, even just a night on the train, they all have it. I will say, though, a little fun tidbit is during the fall months on select days, the Adirondack train, which is a regional train from New York ultimately to Montreal, will have what's called the Great Dome Car. So take a look at some of that beautiful, beautiful fall foliage that upstate New York and southern Quebec have to offer. So that is the only regional train that will have an observation car from time to time.
Great, thank you, Nick. I've got a question here that's near and dear to my heart from Anne. Is coffee available 24/7? Great question, Anne. There is coffee actually available in the cafe car. So cafe car is usually open from morning through till evening. So you can grab coffee there. As well, if you are a sleeper car passenger, there's typically coffee there in the car for you, complimentary for you to go and grab whenever you feel like. So I don't know if it's quite 24/7 if you could get it at 3 a.m., but it's there most often for you to grab. So
that is a fantastic question. I kind of wish I had some coffee right now, to be completely honest. Let's see. We got some really great questions. What do we got? I have a question. Let me see. I have a question from David asking, can 6 people sit together during dinner? No, the booths only fit 4. But honestly, as Colleen mentioned earlier in the presentation, you'll meet some really interesting people when you kind of jazz it up and sit with other folks while you're at dinner. I can tell you, one of the gentlemen I had breakfast with, when I did the train from Chicago to Los Angeles last year, one of the gentlemen I had breakfast with was an older gentleman. He personally knew Jimmy Stewart from when he was a child. And it was one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, and he grew up knowing Jimmy Stewart, and I'm a fan of old Hollywood, so for me that was a jaw dropper. So it was quite an interesting story. So definitely, it's always nice to broaden your horizons and meet new people, especially your fellow train travelers.
thanks, Nick. And too, if you are a party of 6, you could always sit across the aisle from each other. 4 people and 2 people with some new guests to be part of your group there. Another question I've got here is from Stephen, who's asking about the handicapped accessible accommodations on board Amtrak. So great question, Stephen. Does come up, quite often for our guests here. So certainly Amtrak can accommodate you. You just want to let our travel consultants know when you give us a call to make your reservations what those needs are going to be for you. But you can certainly bring on a cane, a walker, even a wheelchair on board Amtrak, and they can accommodate you. For their long distance routes, they do have a handicapped accessible room on board the train, which is designed to meet your needs. So certainly something, just let us know when you're making that reservation. We can check that availability and we can get that information over to Amtrak. Also, while you're there in the train station, Amtrak does offer red cap service, which is basically assistance for you if you are mobility impaired or just need some extra assistance in the station. They can assist you bringing your luggage over to the train, as well as even give you a lift maybe on a golf cart if you're in a station like Los Angeles, where you've got quite a long trek maybe to where your track is. They can certainly accommodate you there. Just let us know when you make your reservation.
Excellent question, Steve. Excellent. So let's see what we got. Yeah, I have a question here from Ramsey asking, can you put together a train tour coast to coast, making many overnight stops along the way? By all means. If that's something you absolutely want to do, we can customize any of our packages. So yeah, we can do that. Just bring it on. We can absolutely just give us a ring or visit your local travel agent. They'll be more than happy to help you out and get that all set up.
Perfect. Yeah, we can suit whatever you like. We've got a lot of trips that are kind of designed that way, and we can customize them to stop where you want to stop and make sure you see what you want to see. So you've got another question here from Barbara, who's actually asking about meal restrictions on the train. So, do they accommodate special diets on board the train? And that is definitely something, again, let us know when you're making your reservations and we'll let Amtrak know and see what they can do for you. They certainly accommodate, for example, vegetarian diets or kosher diets as well. Just let us know and we can see let your server know certainly when you're on board in the dining car, and they can advise you as to other dietary restrictions as well.
That's excellent. I have a question here I'm going to go with a question from Sandy. How many rooms share a bathroom in a roomette? That's a really great question. So the showers are actually separate from the toilets and sinks. So I believe per car there's 4 toilets and sinks and 2 showers per car. So, and I could tell you this, when I rode the train, I've been on 2 long distance trains now. Not once have I ever had an issue with trying to get into the shower. It's not like you're at home and fighting with your siblings when you're a kid and trying to get, who's going to get to the shower first. No, I did not have that issue once ever on the train. So, and I doubt you will too. It's actually pretty neat because you got to figure a lot of people are on different schedules too. So, keep that in mind.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We've got a great question here. Can you bring your own food on board? So absolutely, Carmen, you can bring your own food on board. In your personal item there, you can bring on snacks for the train ride. That's no problem. As well, if you folks are staying in your own roomette or bedroom car, you guys could bring maybe a box of wine or something to have for the evening if you want to do that right in your private cabin though. But anywhere you sit on the train, certainly you can bring snacks for you to enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. And then what a lot of people will do too, especially if you're traveling with children, is you can actually bring a small cooler on board as well. Fill it up with juices or some soda or some snacks, some sandwiches, whatever you may be. I have a question here. I've actually seen this question come through a bunch of times on here about Wi-Fi available on board the train. The answer to that is some. What I mean by that is a lot of the smaller, like shorter distance regional trains, most of those have Wi-Fi. 2 of the long distance trains have Wi-Fi. So first off, the auto train, which is the train you can bring your car onto from Washington, D.C. to Orlando, Florida, or vice versa. That train has Wi-Fi on it, as well as the Coast Starlight from Los Angeles to Seattle, or vice versa. Those 2 trains have Wi-Fi. Amtrak is putting it on train by train, but as you can imagine, it is a tricky process considering they are cross-country trains they move quite fast and it's quite tricky to put Wi-Fi on. So they're on it, but to be honest with you, you're not going to miss having the internet, to be completely honest. It's you just kick back, relax, grab yourself a drink, and watch the country go by as it's intended. You don't need to answer emails. It's a nice little break for reality, is the way I like to put it.
I've got a great question here from Beryl, traveling from coast to coast. How is baggage handled? So that's a great question. If you are traveling from coast to coast, let's say you're going from New York City all the way across to San Francisco, you do actually first go from New York to Chicago, and you change trains in Chicago and then go from Chicago out to the West Coast. So when you change those trains, any checked baggage that you have, if you check your bag in New York City, Amtrak will actually move that bag over to the next train for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. You specifically would just bring any carry-on bags or purse, laptop, that with you from one train to the other. And of course you can always request that red cap assistance if you did need assistance in the station moving your bags.
Excellent, excellent. Vicky just asked a really great question. I actually love that because that's quite important. Is there long-term parking at the train stations? The answer is some. A lot of the major stations and a lot of the the bigger stations do have long-term parking. The amount of long-term parking spots can vary. So figure I can tell you, I mean, places like Chicago and New York and maybe Los Angeles, a little bit of the bigger cities may have more long-term parking spaces than a lot of the smaller stations. And on the other hand, there are some of those Amtrak stations that they're just a platform, for example, where they unfortunately may have, either a handful or less of long-term parking or even none. So you just have to check with your local station, and if you visited amtrak.com, there is information about parking. Sometimes the stations that don't have parking do have like a separate parking company or a parking garage, a lot nearby that Amtrak can use. The prices can vary though, I must say, because usually the parking at the stations they're not operated typically by Amtrak. So the prices can vary from station to station or by daily. It all depends on, I guess, the specific station and the parking.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Just looking for, we've got so many questions here, guys, and I know we've just got a few more minutes left in the webinar. Now, just so you guys know, too, if we don't get to your question today, please give us a call. Please visit our website. You know, we're more than happy to get the answers for you. We've only got, unfortunately, so much time to spend with you this afternoon. Really great point from Randall. So it's not so much a question as something he wants me to make sure I mention to you, which is the Metropolitan Lounge and the different lounges at the Amtrak stations, which is a great point actually for anybody that is taking a sleeper car. You know, the roomette or the bedroom. A lot of Amtrak's major stations do have a special lounge for you. So Chicago, Los Angeles, you know, these stations do have a lounge there where you can go and relax and wait for your train. They've got some snacks out for you. They'll give you information about the train departure. It's a really nice kind of comfortable place, and it's another one of the perks of taking the sleeping accommodations. And Randall also wanted me to mention that Amtrak has the best veggie burger out there. So just for you guys who are into that.
That is true. That is true. The Metropolitan Lounge is really great. It's really nice to just hang out in there and kind of prep yourself and get yourself all excited for your train journey. Now, I see here I have a question from Burl asking a really great question. Does every coach car have restrooms? Yes, they do have toilet and sinks. However, they do not have accessible showers. So you can absolutely, you know, use the bathroom. You just won't be able to take a shower. That's where if you are upgrading to the sleepers, that's another added benefit of the sleeping accommodations.
Perfect. I think this is the last one we have time for. I've got a question from Jill who wants to know if we include transfers from the train station to the hotel with our packages, which is a really excellent question. We get that a lot. It's certainly something that we can set up for you if it's important to you, but truthfully, most of the time we actually have our hotels located within a mile or two from the Amtrak station, and most of our guests just choose to take a taxi. All of the major stations, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, everywhere like that's actually going to have a taxi stand right outside of the Amtrak station, and they've got an Amtrak employee waving them up, and most people will take that because it's the quickest, easiest, and usually typically quite inexpensive way to do it because, again, our hotels are located so close to the station. But just ask our consultants. We can definitely look into arranging a transfer for you if that's something you want to do.
Excellent, excellent. So it does look like to me we are out of time today. If we did not get to your questions or if you have any additional questions, please feel free to give us a ring or visit your local travel agent. The number should be up, but it still is on your screen, so give us a call or stop by your local travel agency and they'll be able to answer those questions. But in the meantime, I just wanted to once again reach out to all of you and say thank you. Thank you for you know, taking this time this afternoon and kind of learning a little bit what we have to offer with Amtrak Vacations. In the meantime, I hope you all take care of yourselves, and we hope to see you soon on Amtrak and with Amtrak Vacations. Take care, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.